All right. Excuse me, something's in my throat. I'm on vacation for
Wait a
9
minute, what
days.
is the show?
The show is called Nothing But Surprise and Wonder with your hosts, Dinky and Winky.
Alright, Steve.
This is nothing but worry, and it's a place for us to talk about our worries in a trouble-free atmosphere. While we glide down the river of doubt.
Because the hashtag prohibits you from discussing any kind of politics on the job. Fuck.
So anyway, I'm on vacation, and I'm so delighted. I warned everybody at work before I left that you're not going to have me to kick around next week, so... oh, my head. Anyway.
You've had a rough week at work, haven't you?
Not too bad, really. Just
You got some new people
a lot
working
to
there.
do. Yeah, we got some new people. Supposedly some more people coming, and
Tell us about the new people, Lance.
Well, the new people are officially designated as rural carrier assistants, whatever that means. And when this whole thing started a couple of weeks ago, when somebody at work told me that these are a new classification of employees that can do anything. Apparently that's not true. So anyway, our union and the clerks union are going to raise hell about this. I don't know what will be the outcome. But anyway, several days this week we got done early and just had to spend the rest of the time cleaning up. I'm on the verge of a headache for some reason.
You need to eat, babe.
Must have been that coffee. Ugh, I got into where I just can't stand coffee, especially with that shit I had.
What was the brand?
Wolfgang Puck. It was a special hotel package. The kind of thing they leave in hotel rooms. You can make your coffee in the room. Anyway, before we get into my business, what's going on with you, Bonnie?
Well, we had the service guy come in and overcharge us to put in a new thermostat.
How did he overcharge us? I thought he charged exactly what was correct.
Well, I went back and looked up the list price for the thing, and it was like 3 times as much. So I wasn't amused.
Well,
Technically, they charged us $29 to do it, but then charged us 3 times the amount. So I'm not amused.
okay. I'm
But we
glad.
have a working thermostat, and that means heat and air conditioning this week. We've needed both. And, I don't know, it just still doesn't seem like it's quite right.
It doesn't read right because it says it's 75 degrees in here and it's not. It's about 69, 68.
We really need to get a second indoor thermometer to have us a good gauge to say, hey, this is off at so many degrees. Definitely doesn't seem right.
Well, all right. Everything's going well with me as far as my I feel really positive about my drawing lately in my painting online magazine. I feel like it's really going well. I have been listening to I've been pronouncing the name of the band Opeth for years, but apparently it's Opeth. The TH is a hard T sound.
Where are they from?
Sweden.
Oh.
But anyway, I've been listening to them lately. A really, really great band. I haven't listened to them in years. What else has been going on? Oh, I got out a Yola Tingo album. Been listening to that.
What type of music is that?
It's indie alternative, weirdo music, quiet music. But the reason they got brought up to me, there were a husband and wife team of animators, did a lot of work for Sesame Street and some other stuff, and I really like their sort of what's the word, sloppy watercolor style of animation. John and Faith Hubley. Their daughter is the drummer for Yo La Tengo.
Mm.
They did. This is one you'll know, Bonnie. You know the Sesame Street cartoon where the man invites the M over for dinner, and the M eats everything on the.
Yeah.
And not another M. Anyway, they did that animation. I can't think of what else I've been doing lately. Been struggling to find stuff to read. Finished reading this German mystery novel I've read 5 times now because it's the only thing that really appeals to me. I'm going to try reading The Trial by Kafka. See how that goes. I tried reading some other mysteries I've got and just not interesting. I hate reading translations. I've got an Agatha Christie I was thinking about reading, but it's just not the same. And I'm reading this French reader that's basically a history of France. Trying to think what else has been going on. The check engine light in my car finally went off because the weather warmed up a little bit. So it's all just a trick.
Bunch of bullshit.
But the big news that I guess we should talk about is the United States betrayal of Ukraine. That Trump and his administration have led us into. Today's humiliating exchange between Trump and Vance and Zelensky, with all the cameras rolling, was
jaw dropping.
It really was. I can't, I don't know how they think this is going to work for anyone. It's certainly not going to work in their favor. They really think that if they bully this person on the world stage, that it will create just a groundswell of popular support among them, among the American people, because their reading of the American mindset is, well, the American people love to see a bully kick somebody to the curb, They just love to see a big man beat up a small man. And they're totally wrong about that. America's hero worship of billionaires and celebrities only goes so far.
We had a strong disdain of Russia a lot longer than we've had all these widely known billionaires amongst us. The Cold War sat with us for decades, and Russia is and remains our enemy, and Putin is a dictator. And for Trump to have met with Putin and then to have negotiated without Ukraine at the table for a peaceful resolution is absurd. And then Trump lies and says that Ukraine was the aggressor. My God. Talk about rewriting history. They have been lying to people and getting away with it for so long, they expect to be able to continue these lies and to be believed. And some of those jackasses will believe them.
Some of them will, but I think they've really
They're pushing
misjudged.
the limits of credulity now.
Well, this whole thing, they've pushed the idea that government is your enemy, big government is your enemy. And they've pushed it so long, they've thought, well, okay, finally this is embedded in the American consciousness, and they will allow us to totally dismantle the bureaucratic apparatus. Well, I think that they've totally misjudged this situation. That only goes so far. Grandma doesn't want to lose her Social Security check.
Apparently, a number of Republicans and Democrats went to the administration and said, can you please justify these X number of cuts from the Veterans Administration or from the VA? And They're upset. They're genuinely upset. And then the other thing that's happening is with the federal employees, 30% of federal employees have military experience. And so, again, the veterans are getting hit hard by having these mass layoffs. And this week has been a disaster for the Constitution. The courts are buckling more and more. John Roberts went forward and said this lower court decision, we're going to let it. We're not going to be allowing the payments to be made from USAID to contractors who are owed money. And that brings us back to what happened today. You have Trump, a failed businessman, 6 times in bankruptcy. The man managed to fucking destroy a casino, for God's sake, in Atlantic City. He has a reputation for breaking contracts, for not paying his contractors, for not paying his employees. He is a man he goes back on his word all the time. And here today in the Oval Office with his and Vance's berating of Ukraine, they were supposed to be striking a deal for half of Ukraine's mineral wealth, rare earth minerals, in exchange for a pittance of support. It wasn't a strong deal for Ukraine, by the way. And somehow or another, Ukraine was supposed to believe this man who has taken his lack of business acumen and translated it into the presidency. We've gone from a businessman who won't pay his bills to now a presidential administration that won't pay their bills. How can anybody trust them in any kind of deal whatsoever?
This is all going to blow up in their face. It won't take long either. If Zelensky, which is this is what he should do. If he goes to Europe and says, "Okay, I tried with the Americans and it didn't work out. I'm going to offer the mineral rights to you, the European Union." And
come into my defense. It'll benefit them in multiple ways because they've got to keep Russia from annexing the rest of Ukraine. Ukraine is not only the breadbasket, they've also got a lot of things in addition to the regular rare earth minerals, oil, etc.
The Europeans...
And they need to keep Russia at bay.
The Europeans know that Putin isn't going to stop at Ukraine.
That's
he
right.
wants Poland,
right.
Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, Latvia, Estonia. He wants them all back under Russian control.
Yeah.
And this...
They've got to act. They've got to do this in order to support themselves. And Zelensky should just walk the fuck away from Trump and just not look back. He should make the deal with the Europeans, and they should back him, and they should put forces in, and they should just flat out push and push and push at Russia. Russia is already stretched.
I don't know what... Yeah.
They're bringing in North Korean soldiers to fight.
I don't even know why Zelensky came here, because I don't know what he expected. Did he actually expect that Trump was going to go...
Well, we have been giving them 40% of their support. Europe has been providing 60%. And that's something that Trump was embarrassed by this week. Macron showed up early in the week, and in the Oval Office, Macron corrected Trump and said, no, that is not correct. And he set out, the way that they've given the numbers, the percentages, the terms of the support, etc. He corrected him on television. And that had to have rankled Trump. And so he has this man that's brought before him today. Zelensky is a small man, small of stature. And he shows up and he's not dressed in a suit, which apparently rankled the Republicans a bit. How dare he? But Zelensky said, my men are fighting in these uniforms. It is what I will show up in. Mm-hmm. And I have to be ready to go and fight And so this is how I represent my country. They were offended by something as absurd as that. And here's this man who has been fighting for 3 fucking years by the skin of their teeth, losing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even more at this point. They've lost land, they've lost blood, they've lost children. My God.
I don't even think I know how to tie a tie anymore.
What?
I haven't worn a tie in so long. I don't even know if I could. I forgot how to do a bow tie. I knew that briefly, but
It's okay. We can figure it out, sweetie. But you don't have to show up for that. Anywhere with a tie.
yeah, I don't know. But
Trump saw it as an opportunity to try to take back some of that which he thought was taken from him when Macron stood up to him. And that's the thing. He doesn't like anybody standing up to him.
well, I really think that this is like
He's exchanged several barbs with Zelensky correcting him in public across the water, saying, no,
well
Russia invaded us.
after what Trump said earlier before in the days leading up to the meeting, if I was Zelensky, I wouldn't have shown up here.
I wouldn't have either.
Calling him a dictator and lying about this and lying about that.
A mediocre comedian from television. I mean, my God, the irony in that he's a mediocre reality TV show, president. And he doesn't even
I really think they have miscalculated because only a third of the American electorate voted for him. Now, of that third, I think maybe 75% of those people are like, yeah, screw over these people, yeah, fuck them all. Because they've already pissed off a lot of people who voted for him by making cuts that they did not expect to be made.
And the prices keep going up and up and up, and more tariffs are coming into place next week.
Oh, they're making a huge mistake.
Yeah.
But it may not matter because they may cancel the midterm elections. Because anything's possible at this point. Oh Lord,
What galls me is knowing that the billionaires are going to throw money into the midterms, if there are any, to support keeping the power in the hands of the Republicans.
Let's just say that it's a Democratic blowout at the midterms.
They'll claim election fraud once again.
There is every chance that they'll go, I'm sorry, these votes are illegitimate. Well, how do you figure that? Well, they're Democratic votes.
Yeah. I mean, consider what happened back when Trump lost for the second time, for his second run. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, who came into office, and she's like, this election was fraudulent. And people's response to her was, well, then your election shouldn't count either if it's so much fraud. They're absurd people.
If you offered her $1 million a year, she would turn on a dime and become a Democrat. It's all opportunistic horseshit. What?
We don't want her. And I think that it would take more than $1 million a year. She's probably getting that already for what she's doing for the Republicans.
I can't think of anything else. I did not want to watch any of the clips of the exchange today because I'm just slowly tuning out the news because it's just depressing and there's nothing I can do about it. But then, it was such a big deal that I was forced to watch some clips of it. Surprising, well, not really that surprisingly, but on the PBS NewsHour, they have the weekend roundup with David Brooks and Jonathan Capehart. And David Brooks is, nominally one of the good Republicans, but he often makes, noises about, oh, well, we should, the people voted for Trump, we should make allowances. He really stuck it to Trump today. He was just like, he said, this is nauseating how this is all playing out.
Oh, I read something interesting this week in New York Times. It was an article about the changing attitudes towards women. From the 1970s, we were making more and more progress about the way that people viewed women's roles in society. Then, sometime around 2003 or so, they stopped asking a few questions because they thought that a lot of it had reached a certain point of equity of sorts. It wasn't that we had pay equity or the glass ceilings were shattered. Rather, it hinged around one idea. Do you think women should be out of the kitchen and out of the home? And the balance had reached a certain point where it was almost a non question, that it was just a given that people wouldn't hold that idea. Well, the polling was started back up again somewhere in the teens, asking the same question, because the people who were asking the questions noticed that there seemed to be some more talk about women in the kitchen. The latest numbers show that over 45% of Republican men think that women should be in the home.
Think they should return to their traditional roles.
Yes. And 37% of Republican women feel that way as well. I don't know how that would happen given the cost of living these days. You can't afford a house on a single salary because still the average American income for per person cannot afford to buy a home on a single salary. You need two people's incomes in order to attempt to buy a home. And it has been playing out so much in the last 8 years, this animosity towards women. And our changing roles, our changing freedom, etc., our independence. I was so pleased a number of years ago here in Georgia, the age for marriage, the average age for marriage, rose to 26. And that was significantly increased. And I thought that's a positive thing because that indicates that people are finishing high school and then they are going on to a secondary education. And then after that, they get a job and they become established.
Do you know my dad was like 19 or 20 when he got married?
I know.
Can you imagine?
My parents were in a similar situation. They got married. My dad was in high school. I don't know if my mom was still in high school or if she was a year ahead of him and out of high school. But they basically drove over the state line and got married. Same as we did.
Well, number one, when I was 19 or 20, there's just no fucking way I was ready for marriage. And he was 22 when I was born. There's no way that I could have been a proper parent at 22.
My parents were 24 and 25 when I was born, so they waited. They did the whole, go to college, get jobs, etc. thing, because that was at least, an intelligent thing to do. Your mom was how much older than your dad?
She's 4 years older than my dad.
Jesus.
My grandmother was 7 years older than my grandfather.
Really?
Yeah.
How the hell did they meet?
No idea. I don't know. And I feel like many opportunities have just slipped away from me to find out all this family history. When my mother came to visit before they moved out to Montana, I tried to get some information out of her about her father, and she's so addle-brained now, I couldn't. It was like pulling teeth.
Murder or something? What was the crime?
Her father, and I never knew this, her father came home drunk one night and went to the wrong house and tried to get in, and the guy inside the house shot him. And my mother and her friend had to drive all the way to Athens to take him to the hospital.
They ended up at St. Mary's Hospital, and the nuns were there. And they had been out and about, like swimming or something. And the nuns were giving them hell about their outdoor attire.
They were wearing shorts. And how dare you show up in public wearing shorts? This was before I was born, so this is probably 65. I don't know.
It's obscene.
Yeah, maybe earlier than that.
My grandmother had to go to a Catholic hospital because everything had gotten transferred over during World War II for the war effort. The only thing left was a Catholic hospital. And she gave birth there to her first child, my mother. And the nuns were like, "Oh, stop it. It can't hurt that badly." And my grandmother's like, "How the hell would you know? You've never been with a man. You don't know anything about being pregnant." She said at one point she got so mad at the harpies that she took her nails and just ran them down the length of the nuns' arms when they were holding her down.
Well, I mean, I don't know anything about. I need to find out information about. I don't know where I'm going to. It's too late now to get in about my mother's side of the family and my father's side of the family. I don't know.
Yeah, your father lived in Texas or something. Your
My
grandfather?
Oh yeah, I never knew
Yeah.
my mother's father apparently was born in Florida and lived in Texas for a while. I never knew any of that.
He went to live with his sibling or older sister or something or another.
Yeah, he's a twin. Has a twin sister. I don't know anything about her. I don't know anything about any of this, and I never met any of his
People.
relatives. I met my mother's family a lot. Her sister, I think it was, looked just like her. Many years ago, I saw a picture of my mother's mother standing in a cotton field. She must have been, I don't know, 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there. She looked just like my cousin Sherry. And I was like, oh my God, my grandmother was attractive at one time. She was fresh-faced and young. And I was like, it was shocking.
Yeah, she was this big lumbering woman when I first met her.
Many years ago, I saw a picture of my mother's father, and he was sort of squatting down wearing a leather jacket, and he was really young, and I thought, I cannot believe he was young.
Do you remember back in the early 2000s, my mother's family had a huge reunion. It was a 100th anniversary reunion, and we had found the family through genealogy sites. Our family broke off, and through the genealogy sites, we found this group that we were related to, and the big story was oh my God. So there was a large family, the Dent family. They had numerous brothers and sisters. And one of the younger ones, Jesse, was my great whatever grandfather. And he married my great grandmother. And great grandmother's mother. And apparently he had a business, and one day a man came into the business and started a fight with him, and to defending himself he killed the man, and he was sent away to prison for 3 years for manslaughter. And when he was released, he was apparently on his way back home and someone killed him. There was so much shame associated with him going to jail. The family broke off all ties with his wife and his daughter. So they never spoke of him. Even in my mother's family, they didn't speak of him. She went off and lived with her mother, and my grandmother was raised, great-grandmother was raised without a father. And we didn't discover this until the 2000s.
Well, my So for decades, supposedly, my father told me his mother's father's mother was Indian, I guess Cherokee. And so, he's always said, well, I'm 1/8 Cherokee and you're 1/16 Cherokee and blah, blah. And then a couple of years ago, he took some DNA test and it didn't show any trace of Indian heritage. So he's like, oh, it was all a lie. It was all a lie. Well, you don't know that. They didn't look specifically for that marker. Just because it didn't come back in whatever the hell you fly-by-night test you took doesn't mean anything.
Well, it's like what happened with my mother's family. They had so many dark-skinned people in her family. And there was all kinds of stories about this, that, and the other. And one of the things that we discovered in the genealogy thing was that this same family, the Dents and the Washingtons and the Zieglers all came together. And one of the uncles took up with one of the slaves. And he never married, and he had children by the slave woman that he had. And the reputation of the family got sullied so much so that when my grandmother's family moved to Macon, her mother had her bloodline questioned as to whether or not they had any black people in their family, and that would determine where you lived in town, who you associated with, etc. They apparently passed the purity test, so to speak. I don't know how, but it was one of those taints on the family.
Well, number one, my father's mother, she looked Indian. I mean, she had this Geronimo look, the cheekbones, the nose. And, but second, related to what you were just saying, when I was a kid, we watched Sanford and Son, Good Times, The Jeffersons. It was just something we watched. And when I got older, I was stunned to find out that there were people my age whose parents wouldn't let them watch shows like that because those are black shows. And I was like, I never knew that racism extended that far. It's weird. When I was a little kid, I loved Sanford and Son. I loved his house and his yard. I wanted to be a junk man because I just thought, what a great house. All that stuff everywhere. Anyway, what?
I don't know if it was Lena Horne who was from Macon, Georgia, but I think it was her. She'd come on television, and my grandmother would go, oh, a high yellow, thinking she's above everybody. She had this honest contempt for her because somehow or another she'd made it. She had come out of that same area, and they didn't just.
Well, I will say my dad didn't like Flip Wilson, and I don't know if it was because he did that female character or what, but I remember that was
what was her
Geraldine.
Geraldine.
I was a little kid, and I would want to watch it. I would want to watch it once in a while. He's like, "Oh, I can't stand him." As a kid, you're like, "What? I don't understand what the big deal is."
I remember my grandmother using the word colored. And I was perplexed because we didn't say things like that in my house. But May said it in hers. And I said, I don't understand. She goes, it's for people that are black skinned. And
well, I'll tell you,
brown skinned. I said, aren't we colored white? She goes, no, it doesn't count. It doesn't mean the same thing.
Well, I will tell you, my mother was totally against miscegenation, and she was totally against interacting with black people on any social level. And when I was a kid, Roots was the big thing.
Oh, yeah.
And we didn't watch it start to finish, but I would see it once in a while. Anyway, there's one of the episodes. There's this guy, and he's wigging out in the loft of this barn. He's all upset, and he's throwing a tantrum. And I remember being a little kid and going, "What's wrong with him?" And my mother going, "He's half black. It makes him crazy."
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
There was this racism light that you and I grew up with. The phrase that you and I heard all the time was, "They're some of the good ones. It doesn't matter. They're okay. They're some of the good ones." And you weren't allowed to say the N word because you didn't say it because, number one, they might be one of the good ones, and number two, it was just crass and crude, and only white trash would use that kind of language.
Oh me.
Jeez.
It was the 70s were so different from today. Oh Lord, let's see how much time is on here because I gotta go blow my nose in a second. I can't breathe
You
properly.
can pause it.
We're at 35-minute mark. Got a lot to do this week. A lot of chores, a lot of stuff I want to get done. Oh mercy.
So did you like your breakfast this morning? I made you a very healthy breakfast, didn't I?
Yeah, Bonnie made basically a taco salad, and it was so much food. I only ate maybe 40% of it, and then she turned the rest of it into burritos for lunch. It's really good. It was tofu that you had baked in a marinade.
First off, it was a base of lettuce, and then cilantro lime rice, and then the on the top of that was a mixture of black beans and baked tofu that had been marinated.
In what?
And of all things, hoisin sauce and soy sauce. It just gives us like sweetness and saltiness to it.
Mm.
And then I cut up an entire avocado, an entire Roma tomato. I drenched it in chipotle Cholula sauce. And then around the sides of the bowl, I put a smattering of broken chips, the ones at the bottom of the bag. So you just stir them in, and it's got a little bit of a crunch to the salad.
Mm.
And then I put two types of cheese on there also. But even I had a small amount later on of what was left.
Yeah. Oh dear me. I hate it when I use YouTube to watch these German and French videos to get, just to sort of put some words in my head. And I hate it when they don't have the closed captioning, either for translation or the original language.
I find the best way to do is to read it in English first as you're hearing it, and then listen to it again and have closed captioning on in the language that you're trying to learn. So you have an idea of what's going on, and you can follow better that way.
It'd be cool if you started learning French with me.
I don't want to relearn French. I'm thinking about Spanish.
No,
I
don't.
only had a year of Spanish.
Don't throw another language into the mix. Learn French with me.
I really.
Pourquoi? Pourquoi pas?
I have my reasons, but and don't say it's to talk better to Mr. What's his name when he comes to the grass. But I just,
Senor. That's the
thank you very much. I can't even remember his name now.
Juan Valdez.
Riviera. I don't know what his name is.
Is he still cutting my mother's grass now that she's in Montana?
I don't know. That's on Catherine.
Are her lights on a timer or something?
No, they're just on 24 hours.
I don't know how they can. That's just crazy.
That's stupid.
Be better with a timer.
I think Catherine left the AC set at 50 degrees or something.
Why? Why even bother?
Because you don't want the pipes to freeze. I mean, we've had several weeks.
Now, so I see that, but okay.
But, I don't know. Apparently your father's going in on checking on the place or something. When are they supposed to come back and sell the place?
I don't know. I don't know.
You know, it's gotten to the point where we can't even see the house anymore because the trees have grown up so much between us.
Yeah. I kind of wish everything was the way that it was, with the road leading down and the bridge over the creek. That was just
But the floods took it out.
took it out. You sound like you said took it out.
Took it out.
Out. Oh Lord. Okay, I gotta get something to eat. We need to wrap this up.
Yeah, we do. It's late. Anything else, dear?
No, I mean overall, I mean despite all this horse shit in the news, I feel very positive personally. So, and I feel, I don't know, just like open to so many possibilities.
Peter finished his first full week at work.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out really well. I think once he gets used to it,
I hope
2 months
so.
under your belt, that's the minimum to get.
He had 3 10-hour days in a row. He just finished that today, and it wore him the hell out. But at least he's not having to park way the hell off anymore. He's finally got access to the parking deck next door. So that cuts 10 minutes off each way. Because he was having to walk because the shuttle wasn't going. But,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that's it then. Anything else?
No.
All right. Bye.
Bye.